This is TLV1.
TLV1 Radio.
Great mixture.
I like television.
This is still V1.
This is
Tel Aviv is a beautiful city.
Great city, great radio.
TLV1.
This is TLV1.
From the TLV1 studios in Tel Aviv, Israel, it's Louis Live! Now host me, Ari Louis. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is well. This is Tuesday night, 1900, 7 p.m. to you American folks. This is Louis Live on TLV1. Great show tonight. We'll have on Peter Kurz in about 20 minutes, the president of the IAB, Jake Silverchuck from Israel Lacrosse, David Z. Harris to talk about the Canal and the 5-game suspension to Anelka. But our first guest of the evening is an Israeli basketball legend. She won a national title with Maryland, played in the WNBA, and much more across the world with her career. Please give a warm Louis Live welcome to Shay Doron. Shay, welcome back to the program.
Hi, good evening. You have to excuse my voice. I'm a little bit sick from this Russian weather.
Well, you know what? We know you're a trooper, and the first question is, safety-wise, I mean, Russia is involved with a little bit of a war that just recently broke out. What is life like there for you personally? How do you feel safety-wise? And basketball, as far as the games, are they going to continue as scheduled with the war currently going on?
Yeah, honestly, I'm actually pretty close to everything, and things are very quiet around here. Nobody seems to be acting any differently, so games are continuing as always, and I think the tension is obviously felt in Ukraine, but not really here in Russia.
Okay, so basically it's life is going on. I was telling someone in the studio the interesting thing about sports that throughout the years when there has been war, sports is one of the few things that seems to continue as normal, and it's no different in this situation.
Yeah, it seems that way. Right now we're playing on Thursday to compete in the finals of Euro Cup again. It's a really exciting time for us.
Now, it's interesting because you played a while outside of Israel, then back in Israel, and then now outside of Israel. Tell us, I mean, the fans want you back. What do we need to do to get Shay Doron back in Israel?
It's happening soon. I mean, I feel like my career is, as amazing as it's been, and I'm still pretty young, but I feel like it's coming soon to an end, and I'm definitely going to want to finish it out in Israel, so not too long.
Okay, all right, great. So it'll be great to have you back. And whenever your career does it, obviously, hopefully not for a while, I know you've talked about in different interviews you'd like to go into law enforcement, but do you ever consider coaching, running clinics, the assistant coaching? What are your thoughts post-career?
Honestly, coaching just doesn't talk to me. I don't know why. For some reason, I haven't really gotten into any of that. But it's a good question. It's one I've asked myself pretty much on a daily basis. What's next? I'm not really sure. We have a unique situation where we kind of have to retire twice in our lifetimes as athletes. So
right.
I'm still trying to figure it out as I go along, but trying to enjoy the moment as well.
We're speaking with the great Shay Doron here on Louis Live on TLV1. It has been a long time since I had you on the program. I apologize for that. I think it's been 2.5 years. And we've done this interview a few times, but one of the questions I realized in prepping for tonight, I'd never asked you. You won a national title with Maryland. You played in the WNBA. Which is the better accomplishment in your opinion?
Which is the better what? Sorry.
Which is the better accomplishment, or you could say what means more to you?
Maryland's national championship, I think you ask any of my teammates, we'll all agree that it's going to be hard to top that feeling ever again in our lives. Maybe when I have a kid, hopefully it'll feel better, but I think we all agree that's definitely the best whole week of my entire life was winning that national championship.
And I love
WNBA was more of like a personal thing, a personal goal that I'd set and accomplished it, but the Maryland thing was just a team thing that you don't get to experience in your life ever.
And the interesting thing with that story, you went to Maryland at the time was not a powerhouse, but you were very Israeli, 18 years old, saying, well, I'll just make it a powerhouse. We'll just win a title with me. Basically is what the story is, correct?
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. I think the first question they asked me were what my goals were at Maryland. I said, is this lady serious? I mean, we're going to win a national championship. What other goal would I have coming to Maryland? And looking at it now, I was pretty dumb, but hey, I guess you got to dream big to reach the stars sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes being young and naive is good. You don't have any other experience to fall back on of mistake-wise, so you used it to your advantage. And now it's interesting because you're, my understanding, the first Israeli to play in the WNBA. There are two Israelis in the NBA, Gal Makel, Omer Caspi, Gal pretty recent. This is his first year. What does that say for the state of Israeli basketball, that you have some players making it big in the top leagues in America, and what are your thoughts about it going future going forward?
Well, it's very exciting. I mean, I think our basketball and our sports in general is improving on a yearly basis, and I think that has a lot to do with people really getting more involved in it. I think Israelis aren't big sports people. I mean, they're big soccer people, but they're not huge sports people like in America. And the more the culture is becoming a sports culture, the more they're investing in it, and we're seeing the fruits of the labor now. I mean, they're starting all kinds of basketball camps for youth, and finding them when they're young and really trying to hone in on the really good ones and make them the best that they can be. And I think that's a great goal for every sport, but of course basketball is, my favorite. So
Yes.
I'm hoping that it continues. It's very important to me to keep helping basketball grow in Israel.
We're speaking with the great Shay Doron here on Louis Live on TLV1. The last couple minutes with you, of course, have to be about the WNBA. That's a special place in my heart. The Minnesota Lynx are defending champs. I know you're a Washington Mystics fan. I am a Phoenix Mercury fan, as you know, being from Arizona. Brittany Griner, this is going to be Michael Jordan, right? We didn't miss out. We picked the right person in Brittany, correct?
I mean, she's an unbelievable player. I think she's got a lot. That's what's scary about her, is that she's got so much room to improve on, and I think that she has the drive to do that, and she will do that. I'm playing with a couple of Lynx players, and they're trying to convince me to become Lynx fans. So they're doing that pretty well with the way they've been playing this season. It's been a really fun season with the girls this year.
Yeah,
I really got to get to know the Minnesota Lynx, and Candace Dupree, of course, is probably your favorite.
Well, I'm a Diana Taurasi person. That's she has my heart. There's even rumors that I dated her. I try to know who started that. That was me. But anyway. In any case, we want it. But so, if the Lynx are playing the Mystics in the finals, who would you be rooting for? Because I know you're a Mystics fan.
Oh man! I mean, I wouldn't root for either of them. I would root for individual players.
Okay.
So I would want I would want Crystal Langhorne to have her championship. Also want Rebecca Brunson and Simone Augustus. Those guys, well deserved. I think I would have to sit on the sidelines on that one and not pick one.
I like it. A lot of people are into it. They root for players and not for teams. So there's a lot of people with that opinion. All right, Shay, thank you so much for the time. Stay safe, obviously. Good luck to your team on Thursday. We really appreciate it. And I'll make sure we don't go 2.5 years without another interview. And when you come back to Israel, I'm going to see you play in person, which still hasn't occurred yet, but that will happen. Mark my words.
All right, well, I'm going to take you up on that.
All right.
I owe you a jersey or something, no?
Yeah, an autographed jersey. Yeah, we made that deal a couple years ago, so I'll expect that too. Yeah, no doubt.
Whenever you get the chance to come to a game, I'll make sure you get that.
Yeah, I'll make that happen. All right, Shay, much love and respect. We'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Shay Doron, everybody, the legendary great Israeli player. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, Adam Davis is going to talk about Erez Edelstein's choice to be the national basketball team coach. You'll hear why I chose the word choice after this. This is Louis Live on TLV1.
Stop making the eyes at to despair. Without sound, yeah, you're calling me, and I don't think it's very fair that your shoulders are frozen. Oh, but you're an explosion. Your name isn't real, but I don't care for sound. The lights in the fuse might result in a bang, 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 bang. Oh, I bet that you look good on the dance floor. I don't know if you're looking for romance, or I don't know what you're looking for. I said I bet that you look good on the dance floor. I dance to electro pop like a robot from 1984. Well, from 1984. Oh, there ain't no love, no. And Montagues or Capulets. Just banging tunes in DJ sets and dirty dance floors and dreams of naughtiness.
Back here on Lewis Live on TLV1. If you want to follow us on Twitter, that's at TLV1.fm. If you want to email me personally, that's arilouisshow@hotmail.com. ARILOUISSHOW@hotmail.com. We spoke basketball with Shay Doron. We'll continue with that theme with Adam Davis from Medabber Communications talking about a big story with Israeli basketball. Adam, welcome back to the program. How are you doing out there?
Thanks, Ari. I'm good. What's up?
Let's talk about Erez Edelstein. He's going to be named as the new Israeli national team head coach. I mentioned choice in the preview for this segment because he was not the first choice for this job. Tell us about that aspect.
Well, the Israel National Basketball Association kind of make it seem that, like, you know, they're the guy that they wanted, but he really was the fourth choice. You know, they went through three other guys first, who all turned down the job for various reasons. It's not exactly like Edelstein is a bad choice, but I don't know if he was really the number one option. So that could be interesting, seeing how that plays out for them.
David Blatt is considered by far one of the best coaches in Europe and generally considered the best coach in Israel. He was the first choice. He apparently was quoted saying he, at this time, cannot accept the job. Is there anything more that reads between the lines? Or something else that we're not seeing? Or do you take him at his word that he just couldn't do the job right now?
Well, I mean, you could go either way. Right now he's the coach of Maccabi Tel Aviv, which is not only the best basketball team in Israel, it's one of the best basketball teams in Europe right now. They've been competitive for a long time. So he's really got his hands full. With him, I can kind of understand that doesn't really have the time for the job. You take someone else, though, like Zvika Scherf, who also coaches in the Israeli National League. And I don't know, maybe he just wasn't up for it. Maybe he didn't want to step up from his coaching job of Maccabi Rishon that's trying to make a name for themselves in the league. It just really seemed like no one was really up for it. And I guess Blatt has the best excuse, being part of Maccabi Tel Aviv.
All right, going to Erez, since he is the one who's going to be coach, what are some positives you think he brings to the table? He's the fourth choice going in, but this is the coach we have. So if we want to get positive about this thing, what are some things that he brings to this national team?
Well, I think he's got a lot going for him right now, being the coach of Hapoel Tel Aviv. A lot of people around the world know about Maccabi Tel Aviv, but Hapoel Tel Aviv is really the second winningest team in Israeli basketball history. And until this past year, they were in the second-tier division. So, him being there as a coach for the last few years has helped them get promoted into the top tier, which could really help, show that he knows, how Israeli basketball works. He's done well, positive things in Tel Aviv this year. He's able to handle the pressure of being in a big-name club. Those are all things that they're looking for in a national coach. As for being able to handle it on the national stage, I think he's really just going to be helped out by having a good group of players around him that he can just coach, and hopefully they'll do the trick.
And let's talk about that group of players, because that should feature, if everything plays itself out and there's no quitting in the last second, two NBA guys, Gal McCall, Omri Caspi. You'll probably have also some other players, Lior Eliyahu, that are very, very good. So with Erez now in place as coach, talk about Israel's chances of making some noise in the world stage.
Well, first of all, I'll give a shout-out to Gal Meckel for his birthday today.
Oh,
so
happy birthday, Gal.
to him.
Yes, no doubt about that.
But, yeah, I mean, he doesn't get a ton of playing time in Dallas with the Mavericks, but, he's in the NBA. Omri Caspi, also in the NBA. Those guys are going to make a huge impact. And looking forward to August, which is really the first time that Edelstein is going to get involved with this team, is for the qualifiers for the Eurobasket 2015. Israel happens to be in an excellent group from their standpoint, playing against teams that are much lower ranked than them on the FIBA rankings. They're up against Bulgaria, Montenegro, and the Netherlands, all teams that really don't have a name for themselves on international basketball stage. And, hopefully Edelstein's looking to make a splash in the qualification as his first real gig.
Yeah, it sounds good for Israel. Most of those other countries, I don't believe, have 2 NBA players. I know Gal doesn't play a lot, as you mentioned. Omri Caspi's at about 7-8 points a game. He's a solid bench player, and that could be more than what those other countries had to offer. Now, in the last few minutes with you, this is a show in Israel. It's a Jewish state, so we got to talk about money. How much money is Erez getting for this gig?
Well, if he's doing it for the money, then that's probably not a good reason to be doing it. You look at the USA men's national basketball coach, Mike Krzyzewski, who coaches now in Duke University. He's making over $7 million a year as a college coach in America.
Wow. And
Edelstein is looking at maxing out at probably around 600,000 shekel for the year. So a big discrepancy there, considering he's going to be the national coach. But, that's the way it works here. There's only a certain amount of money that can go around, and hopefully he's really doing it for making a name for himself and not for bringing in the shekels.
Yeah, because there's approximately $140,000, $170,000, depending on where the American dollar stands at, to give some perspective to our listeners. And soccer is about the same. Is this kind of what Israel is at? Because it's a small country, size New Jersey. They're just not going to pay that much for the head national coach of any team.
Yeah, the money is allocated to a lot of different sports. There's a lot of disciplines that Israel's trying to work up towards, especially with 2 years now to the Summer Olympics, which is something that Israel is focusing a lot more than the recently passed Winter Olympics. They're focusing on things like volleyball and swimming and things like that. And, even though basketball and soccer are the 2 biggest sports here, there's really not a ton of money to go around. So he's just going to have to deal with it. And, that could be a reason that these other coaches turn down the job for having, 2 different huge responsibilities and at the same time not really making as much for it. So really, that's just the way it works here. There's just not a ton of budget for sports, and really $600,000 is the most that he can really hope for.
I like when you come on the program, we figure out how to solve stuff. When we had the MMA rabbi, we solved some stuff, and I think we solved the question of why the 4th choice was picked as coach. I think if the offer would have been 2-3 million shekel, David Blatt would have jumped on it, in my opinion. Of course, we'll never know. It's speculation at this point. Adam, great job as always, my man. Adam Davis from Adabri Communications here on Lewis Live on TLV1. Enjoy your night. We will be in touch. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Adam Davis, everyone. Quick break. On the other side, the president of the IAB, Israel Association of Baseball, Peter Kurz. This is Lewis Live on TLV1.
Lay where you're laying, don't make a sound.
Back here on Louis Live on TLV1, and I have a special producer here tonight, Udi, who's doing a fantastic job. Lior scared him off. He ran away. I don't know what happened. No, actually, he's in the office. He laughed at my money joke. I really like that. In the other studio, I can't see anybody, so I don't know if they're laughing at me, with me, whatever. But it is great to be on here tonight, and it's great to have on our next guest. I hope you like the segue there. He is the president of the IAB, Israel Association of Baseball. Please give a warm Louis Live welcome back to Peter Kurz. Peter, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes, good to have you back in the program. There's a lot of exciting things going on in the IAB. Now, first of all, the Premier League season is starting this week, and you're going to have games in about a month. Is that correct?
That's it, yes. We're starting this week with spring training. Twice a week we're having spring training for all the guys to come out and just to get ready for the season, to warm up the arms and loosen up the legs after a long winter. And the actual season starts in the last day of March. And
Nate Fish, when he was on the program, he talked about that you guys did this intentionally to coincide with the Major League Baseball season. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. For the first time, we're not going to have a spring and a fall season, a separate spring and fall season, but we're going to go straight through from the end of March till the beginning of October. And in October, we're going to have the playoffs.
All right. Okay, so that's good stuff there. And it's interesting, in my notes here, you have 5 national teams this year that will be traveling abroad in 3 different countries. The 5 national teams are comprised of who? What age groups?
First of all, it's unprecedented. We've never had 5 national teams before. We've only had, I think the most we've had in the past is 3. It starts at the very top with the senior national team, who are going to Slovenia at the end of July for the European Championships. Down to the under-16 team that's going to Prague next month for the pony tournament. Another under-16 team is going in July to Italy. An under-14 team is going in July to Italy, and an under-12 team is going in July to Italy.
Okay, so, and the decision to go to these particular countries, how did that come about?
What we do in the IAB is we have a policy where we look for the best possible tournament in Europe because we do belong to SEAB, which is the European Federation. So we try to go to the best tournament there is. Sometimes, many times, most times, these tournaments are also on Shabbat, which makes some problems for some of our teams. So we try to find a tournament that's not on Shabbat. If we have to go to a tournament on Shabbat, we make sure that we can field a good team for Shabbat. And if we can field a good team for Shabbat, then we go to that tournament. So the senior national team and also the under-16 team that's going to Prague, it's possible that they may have to play on Shabbat. The 3 younger teams are going to Italy because those are tournaments that we can avoid playing on Shabbat. They're able to accommodate us. It's also an easy place to get kosher food. We've been there many times in the past years, and they're great tournaments. And there we don't have to play on Shabbat.
All right. Now I understand the senior team is going to play in Slovenia in a European Championships pool, and it's a very important tournament. Explain to us why it's so important.
It's the C pool tournament. In C, they have A, B, and C pool. We were relegated to the C pool for the exact reason that I told you before. They based it now on the last 10 years and the appearance of national teams in the last 10 years in European championships. Because our younger teams cannot go to the European Championship tournaments because they play on Shabbat, our points were very low. So we ended up in the C pool, even though we'd beaten teams in the B pool. Many teams in the B pool, I think half the teams in the B pool we had beaten. We ended up in the C pool. If we win the C pool at the end of July, the following year, 2015, is the B pool. We win the B pool or come in the first 2 places. And then in 2016, we go up to the A pool, and that's our goal.
All right, speak with Peter Kurz here on Louis Live on TLV1. There is also so many things going on in the IAB, Kol Kavod on all of that. I know you worked very hard and your staff to get that done. There's an invitational tournament in June. Tell us what that means exactly. Anyone show up and play in this tournament?
No, not anyone can show up. People have to make it have an invitation.
Okay.
So between June 18th and 24th, we have 2 teams coming over from the States who are going to play against our senior national team, who a month later have to be in this European tournament, so it's going to be a good practice tournament for them.
Okay.
Basically, it's one team of older guys in their 30s and 40s who are playing weekend baseball in the States. They want to come to Israel, want to tour Israel. They've been here. They were here about 6 or 7 years ago, so they're coming again. And the second team is made of college players from Florida. I don't have much experience with that team, but they should be pretty good.
All right, and in the youth leagues, that started now. There's a bunch of games Friday, Tuesday, Saturday, all around the country. Tell us if people want to watch these games and go see them, where in the country are these games being played?
Just get onto the IAB website. It's baseball.org.il, and you can see the schedules there. There's games in Ra'anana, in Tel Aviv, in Rehovot, in Gezer, in Jerusalem, in Beit Shemesh, all over the country. In Modi'in also in the north there are games. There are games everywhere in the country, every Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday night, Friday afternoon, and Saturday nights. Look at the schedule on the IAB website.
So, in general, the games that are in Israel, those sound like they're never on Shabbat. Is that correct?
That's correct. We don't play on Shabbat in Israel.
Okay.
Exactly.
And last thing I'll leave for you, it sounds like also that you're having baseball played in a lot of new places. I understand Kibbutz, Nan, Yafa. Tell us a bit about that strategy of getting baseball in different places than Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and the bigger cities.
That's been our strategy all the time. This year, because of Nate Fish, we're able to implement that strategy. And as you mentioned, this year we're doing a new program in Kibbutz Nan. We're also doing a new program in Jaffa. We're doing a new program in the Sharon area. And our goal next year is to do some new programs in the Sharon area, more programs in the Sharon area, as well as maybe going into one of these places, either Rishon, Petach Tikva, Cholon, or Bat Yam. We really want to get at least into 2 or 3 of those areas next year, and right now we're building the staff for that for next year.
All right, and also big props to Margot Sugarman, who set up this interview. I know she does a great job with the IAB. Go ahead and praise her a little bit.
Margot is fantastic. She's the best Secretary General we've had over the last 10 years. And I can say that as a fact because I was a Secretary General for 8 of those years, and she's a lot better than I ever was.
All right, and a president with humility. If only presidents of countries had humility as yours. All right.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you so much for being on the program. It sounds like we got a lot going on in Israel baseball, so check out the website, everyone, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much, Peter. Be well.
Baseball.org.il. Thank you very much, Ari.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
Take care. All right, folks, Peter Kurz, the president of the IAB. Quick break. Our next guest is a guy you don't want to mess with in a bar if he has a sword. He's a fencer. That's Yuval Freilich. This is Louis Live on TLV1. Here on Louis Live on TLV1. That great music courtesy of Tomer Gershman, who makes all the music for my shows, all my shows. Thank you to Tomer. Thank you for listening. Again, if you want to follow the station on Twitter, that's at TLV1.fm. And if you want to get my show on iTunes, you could download every show I've ever done through the station on iTunes. Go to Louis Live Sports to get all that good stuff. Our next guest won gold in the Youth European Championships, and he is a hopeful for the Olympics in 2016. Please give a warm Louis Live welcome to Yuval Freilich. Yuval, welcome to Louis Live on TLV1.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Now, one of the things that's interesting about your situation is that you're Australian, is my understanding. So tell us about the decision to represent Israel as opposed to representing Australia.
I'm only half Australian, to tell the truth. My parents are Australian. They were both born in Australia, and they made Aliyah about 25 years ago, and I was born in Israel with the rest of my family. And we lived in Australia. We moved back to Australia for about 4 years, between 2000 and 2004. And we came back about 11 years ago, and we've been here since. So, naturally, I represent Israel.
Right. Really, it sounds like wasn't much of a choice or much of a decision. You're Israeli, and you represented the country. Now, I'm curious because your age, I believe, is 19. How does it work with military service? Did you get an exception because of your fencing skills?
No, I didn't. There's a special track, you can call it, for outstanding athletes or outstanding dancers or musicians in the army. That you're in the army, you do basic training, and you get put in a base wherever you get put. You get a job, and in the afternoons or in the mornings, whenever they let you train, they give you permission to fly out to competitions, to training camps. And I've been very, very lucky to be in a good place where they understand what I do, and they're very flexible with my needs.
That's a very special classification. Those are given out to people for people listening, like Omri Caspi, for example, was given that class status because of his talent. So that's a very good place to be in. Now, I had on Maor Hatuel, who I'm sure you've heard of, I hope. He's also a fencer. Have you spoken with him at all? Because he is won world championships, and he's one of the best in the world. So have you had a chance to chat it out with Maor, and has he given you any tips?
He hasn't given me any tips. The truth is we train. There are 3 different types of styles in fencing: there's foil, epi, and saber. I'm in the epi, he's in foil, so we don't really have much contact day to day. We don't train together. He trains in the north of the country, I train in the center.
Okay.
But in World European Championships we travel together, we have a chance to meet, to talk, but day to day we don't really chat much.
He had one of the best lines of this program. He's quoted Thomas Jefferson that said, "The harder I work, the luckier I get," because Maor comes from a family of fencers, and a lot of people say he just got lucky, but he worked his tail off, and I'm sure it's the same as with you. And anyone listening who wants to get into fencing, they're going to have to work extremely hard to achieve any level of success, correct?
Correct. I think it's true for every sport. I think Tiger Woods and Roger Federer say that often.
Right.
The harder they work, the luckier they get. I think in every sport, if you don't work hard enough, you're not going to get as far as you potentially could, and definitely not as lucky, because people like to call it luck, but if you haven't worked for it, you're probably not going to get there.
Right. Now, what's also interesting, Maor came through a family of fencers. I'm curious how you got into fencing, because most people as kids, they say, I want to be a soccer player or a football player, basketball player. Not everyone says, I want to go take a sword and potentially get hit or hit someone with a sword or whatever. So tell us how you got into the world of fencing.
Well, as I said, we lived in Australia between 2000, 2004, 2005, and we were there for the Olympics, 2000 Sydney Olympics. I was about 5 years old then. We watched it. And I always wanted to do something individual. I wanted to be in an individual sport. I tried out tennis. I tried out a bit of table tennis. I enjoyed it. It was good. It was good fun. It was a good game, but it was something that was missing there. And all my brothers and sisters, they all had their own special thing that they would do. And one day, my dad just brought up the suggestion, maybe you should start fencing. And I didn't know what fencing was. He said, swords. You can fight. I was thinking, which 9-year-old kid doesn't like fighting with swords, doesn't like swords. So we started, and it was, as soon as I started, I loved it right from the very beginning.
We're speaking with Yuval here at Louis Live on TLV1. Now, you won the first gold medal in Israeli fencing history, is my understanding. First of all, what does that mean to you? I mean, I know fencing has not had a long, rich tradition as maybe other sports in Israel like judo, but you're the first guy. So what does that mean to you?
Well, there have been in the younger ages and in juniors as well. There have been not in European championships, but in world championships, there have been gold medals. Being number one, if it was the first time, if it was the 10th time, it doesn't make a very big difference. If it was the 10th time somebody's won the European championships as an Israeli, it'd be fantastic. If it's the first, I hope that it is going to start a tradition of people that understand that it can be, although fencing isn't a very popular sport in Israel, it isn't a very well-known sport. I feel it can start a tradition. Other people will be able to see that it is possible, even in sports that aren't very, very well-known and popular.
Now, you mentioned watching the Olympics as a kid when it was in Sydney in 2000. Let's talk about your Olympic aspirations. The 2016 Rio Games, you're obviously going to be a hopeful because you're at the top of the heap, as they like to say in Israel. So tell us your plans, Yuval's plans for the next 2 years in training to be in the Olympics in 2016.
Well, that is the plan. There is actually a project, a Rio 2016 project in the Olympic Committee. I'm part of a senior squad with 4 or 5 fencers who were being pushed very hard. We're being supported. Everything we need, if it's equipment, flights, training, everything we need, we're being pushed to there. That's the target for now. Going to keep training. It's the same thing. The difference is that this junior championships was in juniors, and the Olympics is a senior event, and the level is very, very different. It's a much higher level in seniors. The trick is being able to do the switch from juniors to seniors, and right now we're doing very well as a squad, and I think if we keep going on the way that we're going, we could be successful.
And last night I leave with you, Avi Green, course director of the Federation of Fencing, said you helped put Israeli fencing on the map because you did this in Europe. That's where Europe is the center of world fencing, and for an Israeli to come in there and be victorious, obviously that helps put Israeli fencing on the map. So what are your thoughts about Avi Green's kind comments about your success?
I think Israeli fencing slowly the past few years. It started with the Hatuel family. Tom Paul is also a foil fencer. Noah Mills is an epi fencer. We're talking about different styles. There are quite a few fencers over the generations. Quite good. I think in the past couple of years we've been more consistent. Worldwide, internationally, we're slowly becoming an empire. We're not Russia, we're not Germany, we're not France. But I think we are hopefully starting to develop some sort of tradition of fencing in Israel and internationally, and I think they are starting to recognize that we are slowly coming on the scene.
And I love the fact that throughout this tournament, you were feeling unwell. You had dizzy spells. You vomited a few times, but you hung in there, kind of like Michael Jordan's flu game in 1997, and was victorious. So everyone out there should take something from that. Yuval, thanks for the time, buddy. Really appreciate it. Good luck to you in 2016. We hope to see you there representing Israel in fencing.
Thank you very much. I hope so too.
All right. Be well, everybody. Yuval Freilich. This is Louis Live on TLVN. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, from Israel Lacrosse, Jake Silverchuck. This is Louis Live on TLV1.
Saturday night I was
back here on Louis Live on TLV1. Happy to have you aboard. I've had a great show so far. Shay, Doron, Adam Davis, Peter Kurz, Yuval Freilich. And now we're going to switch gears to Israel Lacrosse with a man who's on the 46-team roster that will hopefully compete in the world stage. That is Jake Silverchuck. Jake, welcome to Louis Live on TLV1.
How's it going? Ari, good to be here.
Good to have you on, and you have a dual responsibility because in addition to playing on the 46-man roster, you also are a coach for the youth development program. Tell us about those two responsibilities.
Yeah, I am. I would say most importantly right now, I'm in Israel to, promote the game of lacrosse, try and get it recognized as a national sport. Our youth development program is a big part of that. Right now, I'm in between Tel Aviv, Yafo with a big core there, and also between Ashkelon, and we have a big core group of youth players there. So got our hands full with that. Yeah, it's work, but it's a lot of fun. If you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. So that's really cool. As far as being on the roster, we got a lot of our guys out here, so we're training week in, week out. A lot of time training by myself, but yeah, I got a full plate, but it's a lot of fun, I'll tell you.
Now, you're doing all this work for all of the great money you get, right?
Yeah, you know it, right?
Yeah, no, there's not really a lot of money in lacrosse. You really have to love the game to be a part of it, right? There are people there's no money. You got to actually enjoy it, or you're not going to be in it.
Absolutely, and I think I fit into that category perfectly, so it's a perfect fit.
Now, you're from New York. Now you're here in Israel, and you've also been in Australia in between. But tell us why you're in Israel. Not that we don't want you here. It's great to have you here. But what are the reasons for being in the Holy Land?
So I came out for the tryout for the 46-man roster in the summer. Kind of came out for 2 weeks, felt it out a bit, and the rest is history. Kind of fell in love. Our director, Scott Neese, kind of pitched me on the whole youth development coaching thing, and I fell hard for it, and I'm glad I made the decision.
Now, in Australia, you got some experience playing lacrosse. You played for the East Torrens Lacrosse Club. Tell us a bit about that experience, because most of these guys that have played on the team, on the national team, played in the East Coast, and some in California. You don't see a lot playing in Australia, so tell us a bit about that experience and what you learned that will help you here in Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I did something similar out there. After I graduated college, I kind of walked across the stage and hopped on a plane to Australia. I played with the club team for about 3 months. It hooked me up with the job, and I played, and it was kind of avoiding real life for a little while. But
are we all?
Yeah, there's I don't know if you guys know much about lacrosse in Australia, but there's a lot of talent there. So I was staying in shape, keeping my stick going, and had a good time doing it.
So we have two segments with some connection to Australia back-to-back. I think that's the first in this show. So, Jake, we thank you for helping us get that accomplished. Speaking to Jake Silverchuck here on Louis Live on TLV1. Now, I understand last Thursday night there was a big game in Ashkelon. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, there was. So it was an Israel Premier League game. It was between Netanya and Ashkelon. Since I'm living part-time down there, I was playing for Ashkelon. A lot of the guys who are on the roster are playing for those teams, some who aren't. But it's once a week that we get everyone together and kind of really fire up the engines. And there's a lot of good energy. There's a little crowd there, so it was cool under the lights. And it was a lot of fun. And it was a good time. So it was good.
Now, I tell you, that's amazing, these games. I hear about them a lot. Actually, the synagogue I go to, there's a gentleman who always comes up to me and tells me about lacrosse. And you've had Turkey come in and play against the national team a few months ago. So is this the direction that every now and then you're going to have games in Ashkelon that are going to be big-time games? You have a big crowd under the lights you talked about. This seems to be the goal of the Israel Lacrosse right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's our aim is, promote the game as much as we can, grow it as much as we can. We're just trying to get people on board, show people what a great game it is. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people are biting hard right now, and that's a good thing. So it's just promoting, and it's a lot of fun for us guys who are doing it and staying in shape playing. So, yeah, it's a good thing.
Now, you're, of course, part of the guys' team. There's the women's national team as well. Is there any competition between the two? We're going to try to get higher ranked than you. We're going to try to win more, this type of thing. Any rivalry going on?
I mean, if you're playing at this level, every person on each team is going to be competitive. But
right.
I mean, like you said, lacrosse isn't huge yet, so it's kind of one band, one sound mentality that we got to have to push forward. But yeah, but there's a little bit of that. I mean, everyone's competitive, so a little bit of that going on.
I heard the expression, Jake, that Jews are so competitive they would compete over rolling a bag of dirt on the ground. Like if the two Jews did it, they would just say, well, I can do better, I can do better. But if the competition makes you a better player, then it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, if you're playing at this level, in the World Games or competing for a spot in the World Games, I would say it's one of the highest levels you can play at. And if you're not competitive, it's sink or swim, I think. So it's a good thing.
All right, now this is the part of the interview when I have someone from lacrosse where I like to kiss up to Scott Neese because he always makes these interviews happen. So go ahead, kiss up to Scott. I mean, Scott, I've known a lot of commissioners in Israel, and what Scott's done in less than 3 years is incredible. These national games and having countries come in like Turkey to Ashkelon is incredible. So go ahead and kiss up to Scott for us in the last minute we have with you.
All right, yeah, Scott's kind of the backbone of this whole thing. I really admire what he's doing. He kind of started from scratch, getting all this together. Me personally, he had me on the phone every day, every other day, trying to get me out here. And yeah, it was definitely him that was the straw that broke the camel's back to get me to come out here. So it's a good thing. And yeah, he's my hero for what he's got going on out here.
And we appreciate Scott for always giving us guests for lacrosse. Whenever I need a guest for lacrosse, he always can set that up. And, of course, Jake, we appreciate the time here on Louis Live. Good luck to you guys. Of course, you guys will be competing on the world stage pretty soon, representing Israel, the blue and white, so we appreciate that. And we only want best things and good things. So, Jake, thank you so much.
Hey, all right. Thanks a lot for your time. Yalla, Israel Lacrosse.
There you go. All right. Yalla, Israel Lacrosse. That was Jake Silverchuck, everyone. Quick break. On the other side, we'll talk about inverted Nazi salutes. That'd be the Canal with David Z. Harris. Louis Live, TLV1.
Show
Wow, that song really rocks. Now, of course, courtesy of Tomer Gersherman for making that music there. A couple of programming notes. We've had a great show tonight. We'll have a great show next week. One of our main guests, Joe Robbins, a contributing editor to the Jerusalem Post, will talk about March Madness, and we'll talk about the Jewish view. How can Shomer Shabbos people watch the games? And, of course, Jewish players involved. But right now, we're going to turn our gears to Nazi salute. On December 28th, a player by the name of Anelka made the known Nazi salute as the Canal. Here to talk about that and the 5-game suspension is radio talk show personality David Z. Harris. David, welcome back to Lewis Live.
Hi, how you doing, Ari?
Doing great, and I'm doing much better that there's been disciplinary action towards Anelka. He was suspended for 5 games. This has taken a long time to actually suspend him. Tell us the delay and the reason for the delay.
It's one of the complicated stories. Nicolas Anelka is a well-known soccer player around Europe, a Frenchman, has played at some of Europe's top teams. He's now playing in the English Premier League with West Bromwich Albion, and as you rightly said, on December the 28th in a game against West Ham, he did what has become what we now know to be this gesture called the Canal, which is well known apparently in France. It is supposedly a reverse Nazi salute. He says he was doing it in solidarity with his friend, the French comedian Doron Mbala, who is a well-known anti-Semite and has actually had several convictions on anti-Semitism and is barred from entering the United Kingdom. Where the delay comes in is that because the Football Association and British soccer authorities were just not used to this, there's had to have been a whole check, considerations taken. This is the first time this has been seen in British soccer, and so on and so forth. And this has become a fully blown legal case run by an independent, if you will, judicial panel, but on behalf of the Football Association. So not in court, but the equivalent of a court case. And obviously that's taken a while to set up.
Now, I understand they were also looking at 10 games. Tell us why the decision to only go with 5.
Well, the decision is still not 100% clear. We were hoping that there would be, yesterday, some form of shedding of light. We were expecting the Football Association to explain the reason for its decision. However, there has been an interesting development in the last few hours because we're talking here about the Football Association, which is one of the bodies that runs British football. It's responsible for the national soccer squad and so on. But in addition, UEFA, which is the European Football Association, has just announced that it has given a 10-match ban to a man by the name of Omar Rahou, who is a Belgian futsal player. And he got that 10-match ban for doing exactly the same gesture. So, of course, now in the last couple of hours, people are saying, well, why is it this way? We understand that once the legal arguments have been explained properly, both to Anelka and the Football Association, Anelka may appeal to have his 5-match ban lowered, but we also understand, and this is where it gets rather positive for those people trying to fight anti-Semitism, that the Football Association, in all probability, will appeal to have that 5-match ban increased. By the way, just as a brief aside, we should also mention that he received an £80,000 fine, which is $130,000. Right. Back on the subject of the lengths of bans, we've got to bear in mind that Luis Suarez, who is one of Europe's best soccer players, who's with Liverpool, when he took a bite at another player, a physical bite, I believe the ban he got was 8 matches. And people are saying, well, you know what? That was a physical thing that he did on the spur of the moment. And yes, of course, it is something criminal, but he got a serious punishment. But here's somebody who clearly has done a well-intentioned anti-Semitic move, a racist move. Everybody in this sport is against racism, and he ended up only with a 5-match ban. So the jury is still out.
All right. Now, this argument of why there was only 5 games, my understanding is partly that the FA Commission ruled that they didn't find him to be an anti-Semite personally, that he wasn't trying to do that. What's your take on all that?
Okay, So this is the line that is being peddled. But if you listen to every football analyst, and I've been listening across the board, and it's very rare that football analysts agree with each other, to a man and a woman, they are all saying it doesn't matter whether he was intending to be anti-Semite or not. I mean, you could say that somebody who, in front of an entire football crowd, starts saying Sieg Heil as part of their soccer celebration, and they say that they just did it as a joke, or just for the fun, or just identifying with somebody else. Surely that would be so abhorrent to everybody that the full weight of the law, or the soccer law, should be brought to bear. And so there's very much a feeling throughout soccer that this that the punishment he got was too lenient, and we are assuming that it will be increased perhaps to 10 matches.
All right, so the last question I have for you, what do you think will for sure happen? There's speculation about the 10 games, or he might appeal and so on, but if you had to you're going to make a prediction, your prediction would be what?
My assumption is, again, depending on the legal arguments, that the Football Association will appeal to have this increased. I don't believe that the soccer team, West Bromwich Albion, will necessarily get in the way of that. I think we'll find that Nicolas Anelka is largely a spent force at West Bromwich, even though they did let him play a game after the Quinnell. But I don't think it's the end of this racist appearance in soccer in Europe. Even though he's getting to the twilight of his career, I think we'll see him playing possibly in the English Premier League again. Just one last point. The Football Association chairman, Greg Dyke, said, this is a direct quote, and I think we should hold them to this, make sure they stick to this. I know that the Jewish community in the United Kingdom will, and that is the Football Association is not prepared to tolerate things that could be of a racist nature. Let's hope that they stick to that.
Amen, brother. All right, David Z. Harris, bringing it, telling the truth. We really appreciate the time. Thank you for being on Louis Live on TLV1.
Take care, my friend.
All right. That's the end of our program. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, listening in. Of course, I want to thank Udi, who's been my producer tonight, and Tomer Gershwin for making the music, Lior Gilad being behind the glass and taking care of those duties as well. And, of course, want to thank our guests. Our first guest of the evening, Shay Doron, Israeli legendary basketball player, won a title in Maryland and played in the WNBA. She is safe right now in Russia. Adam Davis from Menabri Communications talking about Edelstein being the Israeli national basketball coach and why he was the fourth choice. Peter Kurz, the president of the IAB, talking about 5 national teams competing throughout the world, 3 different countries, and trying to make Israel look good in the world of baseball. Yuval Freilich, who won gold in the European Championships, only 19 years old, will try to compete in the Olympics in 2016 in Rio. And then we spoke about Israel lacrosse with Jake Silverchuck, who is a big fan of not just lacrosse, but everything that is around in the competition between the men's team and the women's team. And we ended the program with David Z. Harris talking about the Quinnell, and, of course, Nicholas's band, of Nicholas Anelka's 5-game ban that could go up as much as 10 games. Stay tuned next week as we'll have on Joe Robbins, frequent contributor to the Jerusalem Post. We'll talk about March Madness. That's next week. Stay tuned for that. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.
With your head, dance till you're dead. Heads will roll, heads will roll, heads will roll on the floor. Glitter